I asked Bernie Sanders. So I asked Pete Buttigieg, I was talking about like government, and I guess him and I had a bit of a disagreement. I was saying, and I do believe this, I said, people have been made to believe that government is inept, but that ineptitude was manufactured so that it could be privatized, right? And we've seen this in South Africa.
100%
We've
correct.
seen this in the UK. We see this in many countries.
Wait, did he disagree with that?
No, he was like, yeah, I guess to a certain degree. And then I was like, the government is supposed to do the thing. People forget the reason we made a government, it's a brilliant idea, is because we could not all individually go work on the roads.
Yes.
So we said, hey, let's all put our money together.
Let's pool together.
For the roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Government is supposed to do things. And then he was like, no, but I think there's many things that government is not that good at doing. Then I was like, name one thing.
What did he say?
Yeah, he said a few, and I disagreed, honestly. I was like, I don't think the government's bad at that. I think the government can run a great airline.
Yeah.
I think the government can run a great railway service.
They do.
I think the government can run a great healthcare service. I think the government can run great education. You know why I say this? Because it did at some point.
Yeah. And it still does.
People forget that
And it still does. In most other places, we just don't think about it.
You know how many people who fight against public education now were publicly educated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to say public education doesn't work. But the smarts that they're using to argue against
Come
us
from there.
come from public education. Yeah. They're the people who say, oh no, the government. Yeah, but the house that your parents bought came from a fund that the government made possible for you. The school that you went to was made possible by the government.
The park.
So this was my, I am vehemently opposed to that argument because I think it's a trick. I think the trick is you first make a government inept so that people believe it cannot do anything. Then you make that government sell off its parts to private, companies and billionaires.
You're describing
barons.
neoliberalism that took shape in America under Ronald Reagan and also Margaret Thatcher.
And then when they have all of it, they then now decide how the thing works.
Yep.
They charge you as much as they want for electricity.
And the tail wags the
What are you
dog.
going to do? Who can live without electricity? The price has to go up. What are we supposed to do? The tail wags the dog. So that was that side of it.
There's inelastic demand for healthcare. That's why
Exactly.
it has to be run by the government in some way, shape, or form. It has to be controlled by the government at the very least, if it's not entirely funded and facilitated by the government, like the nationalized healthcare system in the UK. And at which point, you see this in the UK right now. They try to cripple the funding to the NHS over and over again. They implement austerity, so it's worse off overall. And then people are silly enough to advocate for a privatized version of that. And that's what the Reform Party is doing right now. The Reform Party wants to implement austerity on NHS. They won't say it out loud. And they want to privatize it. But why do people vote for the Reform Party? They vote for the Reform Party because they think that immigrants are responsible for all of the issues that they're experiencing in the UK.
But it's easy. You know why it's easy to do that, though? I have a lot of sympathy for anyone who experiences that, and I'll tell you why. I see this in South Africa. I've seen it in the UK. Places I've traveled to and places I've lived in.
You're like, immigrants are bad.
No, people. You know what? No. People forget this, right? People forget that your ability to see or not see an immigrant changes dramatically with your standard of living and how things are going.
100%.
I think people really take that for granted.
Yeah.
When you're doing well, when your economy is doing well, when things around you are doing well, you'll be shocked at how you don't notice immigrants. They're sort of silently existing in your world because things are going well, because you don't see them. You don't notice the guy at the corner shop has an accent in that way when you've got enough money and the prices are affordable and your wages have kept up.
Yeah.
You don't notice the immigrant in the hospital bed next to you when you're also getting care. You don't notice. But a system that is failing its people is inevitably going to have its people notice the people who are not, quote unquote, its people. Because they're like, wait, I don't understand. You're saying we don't even have enough for us.
Yeah.
Then why do we have enough for them? And I think of it genuinely through like the most personal lens. When we had food in my house, and my mom was always like, please go give those street kids this food. Give that homeless guy this, give that. She did that her whole life. She still does that, right? I remember in my life when we were doing well in the house, like when we had a full fridge, I never noticed it. I would run over giddy to that guy and I'd give him bread and stew and some money. I didn't notice it. It's when my mom opened her purse when it was empty, took out her last 10 Rand note and said, go give it to that guy. And I was like, this woman has lost her goddamn mind. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think she's amazing for like doing that. But I won't lie to you, as a kid, I was like, nah, lady. I was like, that guy there, he should not be getting our money in any way, shape, or we have nothing.
Yeah.
And then she was like, no, you think we have nothing. We don't have nothing yet. He has nothing. We're just doing badly right now. But the feeling I had towards that person, I can directly correlate to the purse's, the purse situation in my house. And so I go, it is inevitable that these people will, I don't even think they're silly, to be honest. I think they're human. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could not hate immigrants when someone is crippling a system around
But
you.
it's I think you described it very well. Depending on which side of the spectrum socially you are, you describe an immigrant differently. If you're doing well, you have a foreign friend. If you're not doing too good and it feels like the system is failing you and benefiting them, then you see foreigners.
Completely.
Right?
Yeah.
Completely.
But there's also like wealthy racists out there who are, I think, advancing this propaganda and specifically directing the attention back to immigrants, either because naturally people start being more tribalistic in times
100%.
of economic struggle,
Yeah.
or because they're
They
being
don't look at them.
propagandized.
They also don't want to look at them.
Yeah, exactly. Because no one wants the attention to be directed at them. So they go, oh, it's the woke feminism, or it's the transgenders, or it's the immigrants that are responsible for it. It's the black people that are responsible for it in America during, Reconstruction. Because any kind of solidarity that focuses on people's class interests remind people that 99% of the public is a part of one class and only 1% of the public is a part of another class. And most people are just working for that 1%. The overwhelming majority are. And that's a terrifying prospect for the capitalist because as I like to say at these rallies I go to, they got the money, but we got the people. And that is something that they want to squash before it becomes a big problem. And that's how I found myself the recipient of allegedly a subpoena that I haven't received yet, that Fox News says I have. And now there's like this additional cycle of misinformation coming out where they're like, he's terrified. He's actually shook. Like the New York Post and Fox News is writing articles about how I'm like terrified.
How much attention do you pay to that stuff, by the way?
I mean, I have to pay attention to it. It's mainstream media, especially if there's no opposition from like the liberal side. If Associated Press is not writing about the situation.
Okay. So no one's correcting it is what you're saying.
If no one is correcting it, the only thing that's coming out is New York Post, Fox News and whatnot. And I think that's a very strange situation to be in, because then most people are looking at that and the conversation being dominated by this negative framing.
The other thing was what Bernie Sanders said. I asked him, I said, do you think, I'm paraphrasing it, and so because I don't want to misstate what he said, but I basically asked him if the Democratic Party was one party, and he was like, his answer was essentially no.
Yeah,
he was like, the thing that I'm doing,
do it in his accent,
is not. I can't do Bernie. I can't do Bernie well. I'll try. I wish I'll keep practicing. I'll try.
He doesn't talk to Bernie.
I'll try.
He only talks to Donald Trump. That's why he's so good at Donald
That's
Trump.
how he said. He said no. That's how he said it. He was like, no, Trevor, and I'll tell you why. No.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. But Bernie's like, he's got a very specific thing. No, and I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Yeah. He always does.
Let me tell you why. Right? No. But he was like, no. From your position, I assume you'd have the same point of view. But I wonder what you think the remedy to that is, right? Because the Democratic Party for a long time in America was a coalition of people, and it feels like that coalition is slowly coming unraveled.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you see as a remedy, if there is a remedy?
There's different schools of thought on this. A lot of people on the socialist side,
I want yours, though.
recognize. Yeah, I'm going to give you mine as well. A lot of people on the socialist side believe that entryism is a failure, and it's understandable to think that, because the Democratic Party is a bourgeois, liberal, capitalist party. They will represent the interests of corporations. That's what they're designed to do. And that's why their output has, reflected that reality over and over again, where if you're wondering why they're not doing certain things, it's like, well, it's because they're not supposed to be doing it. They're supposed to be defending corporations, right? there's certain groups like the Democratic Socialists of America that have differing opinions on this. Some people believe that they can just like enter the Democratic Party and do entryism and run socialist until the party is a Democratic Socialist of America party, right?
Sort of what the Tea Party did with the Republican Party.
Yes, but the Tea Party didn't like entirely take it over until Donald Trump took over.
Yeah, that was like
and
the
then
big
made it the MAGA party, right?
Yeah.
But again, directionally, Trump and the rest of the Republicans are actually aligned, right? Trump might be more aggressive on, overt white supremacy and maybe even a little bit more reluctant to destroy Social Security, for example, as opposed to the average Republican. But like directionally, they're on the side of deregulation and tax breaks.
Okay.
Right? Whereas what we're talking about here, the DSA, is directionally on the diametrical opposite side of the political spectrum in comparison to the liberal capitalist Democratic Party. And they recognize that, right? So there's a real friction there that doesn't exist with the white supremacists and the rest of the Republican Party. They actually lean heavily into that. That's why Republicans can lean into their base. Whereas Democrats, whereas Democrats run away from their base, right? They have like disdain for their base, where they're like, oh, why do you want us to do these things? Don't you understand? Change is impossible. Entryism is difficult. My opinion on this is I'm a harm reduction voter. I'm a harm reduction believer, I guess, to a certain degree. I recognize that class consciousness is the number one problem in this country. We do not have class consciousness and we do not have political education. And without class consciousness and political education, you can't have organizing on the basis of class. So in order to foment class consciousness and to engage in agitative propaganda, as is the Marxist tradition, I believe that elections are one of the most viable routes to reach the masses.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people, no matter how radical they present themselves as, or no matter how critical they are of Bernie Sanders, a lot of people self-identified as socialists in that insurgent campaign in 2016 when Bernie ran against Hillary Rodham Clinton. That juxtaposition of a left populist force, an anti-establishment force who was unbowed and said that they were a socialist and weren't afraid of the moniker, going up against an establishment, like an establishment figurehead like Hillary Rodham Clinton, made a lot of people self-identify as socialists. It made a lot of people go, wait a minute, I agree with that guy. Right? I agree with that guy. I didn't know that this designation existed. Or I was so negatively propagandized against what I thought socialism was, but it turns out it's this, old curmudgeon, right? And who is fighting for me, who has been fighting for me for 800 years at this point. So that's why I believe that, and I've seen this in the data as well, like whenever you got an AOC style figure or Zohran Mamdani, the DSA rises, the DSA's ranks explode. Right? There's so many new paid members, or paying members, that joined the organization. And the DSA is very good at instigating class consciousness and also doing political education. It's a massive institution with many different caucuses, and they're constantly fighting one another. You go to the national conference and you're like, I like them all. I have no, I don't have, it's like picking favorite children. You can't do it, right? But they're constantly warring. There's a democratic process. It's complex. It's very diverse. But you have every different tendency from liberals, social democrats, all the way to Marxist-Leninists, Maoist, third worldists, people who do not participate in democracy at all because they think it's ridiculous and counter-revolutionary. You have all of that, right? And that is political education, and that is an absolute necessity to make the changes in this country. And I see electoralism as a route to foment class consciousness through proving that alternative modes of governance are viable. And that's why I look to people like Zohran as movement leaders in that regard, because every day that he's a good mayor of New York is a day where we are able to tackle the stigma associated with socialism.